response video, I suppose, to Holiday. Only halfway through this, you did a transcript of the video, which is nice, but, you know, it's all subject to what you decide to put in bold, I suppose. You know, and you say you agree with something and then you don't agree with it, and I don't know what to do. You know, you either understand the word bad by definition. You know, something to be bad needs correction by definition. If you don't need to correct it, it can't be bad. It's just the rule of the word. So I can't do much with your changing the definitions of words that I think have a solid definition. But anyway, so I have set up this, like I said, I did post a video, you know, the last video, on the website, and I do have this value page, and I'll post a link to it, and eventually I will, you know, just make a list of the videos that I've made and that other people make, and blah 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 of some kind, and with some reference to what is in these videos and what you know are the points of contention, and try to reduce this to as simple a structure as possible. But I mean, it really just isn't that complicated in my opinion. So these are the sentences I find most interesting. Conscious experiences have a qualitative value element. Not really. It's not a challenging statement, and there's 4 statements defending that. The qualitative element can be improved or degraded. So yeah, you can either feel better or feel worse. There's a cavern of value difference between the best feeling and the worst feeling. So this is stated as a fact, not a perception. It's stated as a fact. There are intrinsically bad brain configurations. So torture, for example, torturous sensations aren't just intrinsically bad. When a brain is in that state, it's in a bad state. If it was in that state forever, it would be a bad thing. The experimental evidence is conclusive and easily replicated. Consciousness is, generally speaking, consistent from individual to individual, and whatever thing has consciousness will notice the difference between the improvement in their condition and the degrade in their condition in terms of their experiences. Alright, by definition, there is a real need to make bad things unbad by correction or compensation. So you either fix the bad thing, or you produce a good thing of enough value, like a super unbadding, to justify the bad. That's it. But it has to be done, or the thing isn't a bad. A bad is not a bad if you don't need to fix it. It's just that simple. To be productive, good, not bad, something must produce more, improvement in condition, than it consumes, creating a degrading condition. That's it. And if you're not productive, guess what? All the alternative words are bad words. Okay? Unproductive, destructive, a menace, a blight. All those things are not productive. And that's what you'll be if you're not productive. A blight. The difference between understood value and felt value. So this is what's pretty important. We understand facts. These are stated as facts of existence. We understand them. We don't feel them. Alright, real versus perceived. So, you know, this is a... It really is. There aren't too many ways to screw it up. Your perception isn't all that bad at seeing reality. And you're only tricked by a couple of circumstances. Like when you're a preposterously selfish idiot. Like when you're 4 years old, you could be fooled into thinking, if I eat all the cake, that'll be really good and everything will be great. And, you know, you don't think about all the other people that don't get any cake because you ate it all. But it's clearly just because you're stupid that makes sense. It can't make sense if you have any brains at all, any knowledge of the reality of the world and the way it exists. So once you know that reality, you know that's not going to work. That the other people will have little sad faces because they don't get no cake. Duh. So I didn't think I need to make arguments that 4-year-olds should be able to start figuring out. But anyway, the real dimensions of the playing field is the collection of experience sensations. That's right, the entire collection of experience on this planet is pretty much what we're responsible for. That's the game we're in. If we don't improve that playing field, if we don't score goals in that field, failure seems the likely result. Anyway, so now I'm back to Hoffaday. So this is a key, I watched the video. He's agreeing, he's disagreeing. I don't know whether he's agreeing or he's disagreeing. You can't. He says yes 1 minute, then no the next. But anyway, this part, he's saying, okay, this is the difference, this is it. And he makes this comparison that I just find, come on. You can't, you really don't need me to explain this, do you? Apparently he does. So, let's do it.
And denied it. No sentience can say it doesn't know the difference between pain and pleasure and so on. And he's saying, you're a travesty, an egregious, illogical monster if you try and say this. You're denying it. You're lying. You're flat out lying.
Right, so I'm saying you're lying if you say you have consciousness and you can't tell the difference between torture and ecstasy. If you can't understand that those are fundamentally and profoundly different things, I'm saying you're lying. Because, there's no way you can be conscious and not know the difference. What tortures you may be very different than what tortures me. I'm sure we have common ones, though. I'm sure nail in the eye is pretty much a universal, nah, that's no fun. But the point is there are things you'd pay a lot of money not to experience.
Well, I feel the same way about this idea of the location of the broken leg. If you go to any sentient and could give it a choice about where that broken leg is, there's a huge difference between where that broken leg being in the individual and not being in the individual.
Right, so now he's making this comparison and saying the cavern of difference between your best feeling and your worst feeling is the same as the cavern of difference between me having cancer and my neighbor having cancer. Now, personally, from my perspective, obviously, from my subjective, narrow perspective, me not having cancer, if I just stop right there and say that's the only part of the equation that matters, win. Because cancer doesn't exist now. But if we finish the truth, neighbor now has cancer, no, there's no net profit here. So if we just call it like Hoffaday 1 and Hoffaday 2, and Hoffaday, so they're two clones of each other. And Hoffaday 1 is telling me, hey, the universe is a much better place if Hoffaday 2 has cancer and I don't. Yes, it's a huge cavern of difference between these two universes. Me having cancer and him having cancer. If he has cancer, it's a great universe. If I have cancer, it's a shitty universe. And then Hoffaday 2 is saying the same thing. And what, I have to explain to them that, no, the set called Hoffaday does not win. Okay, there's no, the set called Hoffaday has to make cancer go away, not decide between itself who gets the cancer. So there is no cavern of difference. There's no cavern of difference. There's no huge, giant, unmissable difference between Holiday 1 or Holiday 2 having cancer. And anyone standing outside of the Holiday pool could see that. That's the objective perspective. An objective observer would say to the Holidays, man, you people are you guys as dumb as sticks, man. You can't step out of your selfish bullshit for a second and realize you can't win if your clone is getting the byproduct of your victory, if he's getting the equal but opposite negative for your positive, that you're not winning that way. I mean, like I said, 4-year-olds learn. I mean, I don't know exactly how old I was, but I mean, you learn pretty quick that you don't hit other people with sticks. You don't do a lot of things because they feel and it hurts them just like it hurts you. And there's no victory in them having pain. You can't win that way. Because the pain is the enemy. It's not its placement. Its location doesn't matter. So again, we're back to the playing field. The playing field isn't your brain. The playing field has the entire set called brain in it. You have to account for the effect on the entire set. So if you are profiting at somebody else's loss, it can't possibly be rationally or logically seen as an improvement in condition, as productive. I'm just saying, I really shouldn't have to explain this. So we'll play a little bit more of this, but I don't know what he's going to change the subject to. But, you know, we went over this same argument before, and he concedes, and then he'll just change his gripe again. And it's just, you know, there's always going to be a gripe. And so I'm reluctant to think there's much purpose in this. I mean, it's very nice that he transcribed all this, but I just don't know. Again, he's just going to jump from sentence to sentence and say, well, today I'm going to argue this sentence, and tomorrow I'm going to argue that sentence. And he already did this with his tentative agreement to the word bad, but he just like, well, bad doesn't really mean bad. Bad somehow only means that it's bad to me, or bad to them. And that it isn't bad as an actual factual thing happening in the game. You know, there's just no point. Bad's a universal concept, not a personal concept. Yes, you will experience bad personally. Every bad event will happen to a person. It just doesn't mean it isn't a real event because it's happening to a person. Because an individual is experiencing it doesn't mean that individual is now extracted from the collective. Oh, shit.
And to say there isn't, and that you wouldn't testify, similarly, that there's a huge difference between you having it and some other fucker having it, then you are also lying.
Well, again, huge difference in what sense? In a perfectly diluted personal sense. We're talking about rational ethics. I wasn't talking about what you, again, ethics by feeling. That just means then you just say rape is okay, or you say harm is okay. If I enjoy beating the shit out of things, then all of a sudden I'm ethical, automatically. Well, of course not. What's the context of this conversation? We're talking about what is the rationally justifiable or defendable position. What can rationally be defended? It cannot be rationally defended that I say my consciousness is important, their consciousness isn't. My pain is real, their pain is not real. That's what you're saying is the truth. And I'm saying quite obviously there's no evidence of that being the truth, and the evidence is quite dramatic that is not. The exact opposite is the truth. That you are not the special snowflake.
Well, equally strongly that way.
Well, you say it's equally strong, and I'm obviously rejecting that entirely. It is a fallacious mush. It is a delusion in your brain, and that's all it is. It's a delusion of feelings rather than reason. It's a delusion of feelings versus logic. You're feeling the truth rather than understanding the truth.
So, and I understand that from inmendham's point of view, once you've made this obligation, if you make this obligation, this bridge, then...
Well, whatever this bridge is, right? So once you once you concede that there's absolutely no way you can get away with being a solipsistic, selfish cunt, and basically annihilate the existence of all other sentience in the universe. Yes, once you've conceded you're not allowed to do that, well, then you're stuck. Yeah, that's right, with reality's a little different than what you'd feel like you wish it would be. It just doesn't work the way you wish it worked.
It is a naturally true thing to understand in the game of life. If you're going to assign an importance to something, then no particular one gets special treatment.
Well, there you go. So you seem to be able to grasp the concept, and then you're saying, but that's a bizarre inmendham theory. You're honestly telling me that you don't think that's the truth of the circumstance, that you're generally speaking just another jackass human on Earth? That there is nothing, entirely, absolutely, and completely nothing especially special about you?
Fuck. As he quite effectively uses the alien metaphor with the heads suffering and so forth.
Well, apparently it's not effective because you just basically said, I don't get it. Didn't you just say, I don't accept that? That to me there's a cavern of difference? Didn't you just say that? Didn't you just say that the two things are the same to you? The truth validity of the idea, okay, that sentient experience creates qualitative sensations. That cavern of difference between the best of those sensations and the worst of those sensations, the theory that there is a cavern of value difference between the worst and the best of those sensations, is equal to the theory that there is a cavern of difference, a cavern of separation between the meaning of my feelings and the meaning of anything else's feelings. That because I feel like a selfish cunt, I feel happy not to have cancer, that somehow that feeling has something to do with the truth. Or that that's not just a complete delusion to think that somehow the universe is now better because I've escaped through luck some misfortune that some other sentient is now going to experience. The short straw is only short if I pick it. That truth is somehow the same as the truth that torture sucks? I don't think so.
I think this was a summary, one summary of this key point, and I think to summarize it again.
Let's see what I said. All sentient beings experience, and that their experience constitute pleasant and unpleasant experience. There is no sentient being that doesn't know the unpleasant and pleasant. It is the nature of sentient, and it is pleasant and superior is a better state. And by simple statement, you automatically have incentive and an obligation to improve condition. By that simple statement, I want you to establish the existence of better, improvement. These words have to mean something. And I'm saying it's an absolute fact that you can improve the condition of someone's experience.
All sentient beings experience. And
I won't do it twice. Anyway, so that's enough. I just want to do the one point in this video. And we'll see if there's some other point in the next 10 minutes of horror. I mean, you know. We'll see what else he has to gripe about. But yeah, this isn't that complicated. But yeah, it never even occurred to me to have to make an argument illustrating why you can't experience the fun of not losing, okay, as some sort of truth. That, you know, the fact that we feel good by not being tortured and something else is being tortured. Again, yeah, you're not obligated to feel their torture. You're not going to feel their torture. But you have to accept it as a reality. It exists, and it's real, just as real as if it happened to you. And that's the simple argument that has to be understood. You're not going to feel it, because you can't feel it. You can only understand it. You can have a sense of oh, isn't that too bad? But you're not going to feel their pain. That's just fucking words. I feel your pain. Yeah, that's just words, okay? You can't really do that. Alright, anyway, till next time. But you can certainly understand its reality. Understanding it is frankly a little more important than feeling it, I guess. I mean, obviously if you felt it, then you wouldn't have to understand it because it would be right in your face and you couldn't ignore it. But I'm just, you know, it just seems to me you really do need to understand it to be able to react to it appropriately. And that's what this conversation is about. Not what people feel your world should be, but what they think, what they can defend as a thought. That's what philosophy is. It's about thinking, not feeling. Feeling is something you analyze feelings. You don't obey them.